This
So we have
conference
a
will
quorum.
now be recorded.
Derek, do you think, should I go ahead and start the meeting? Or do we want to wait for Steve?
Steve is, yeah, he's having some technical difficulties. He was able to register and do that process, but it's been telling him to, there's something about like difficulty accessing the camera and then he's unable to see folks. So yeah, I think I was just speaking with him over the cell phone. So I think we can just proceed. Arthur, do you want, Steve had said I'm able to chair if you'd like, I can run through
Sure,
it.
I'm fine with that.
And we can, okay, that sounds good. So I'll just serve as the chair for today's meeting. And representing Secretary and CEO of Mass DOT, Jamie Tessler. Brian, do you have the agenda that you might be able to pop up?
Yes, let me just share my screen.
Sounds good.
And Derek, you may want to fully introduce yourself.
Yes, yeah, so thanks, Arthur. Derek Fatt, I'm the manager of Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO activities in MassDOT's Office of Transportation Planning. Do you want to read the role, Brian, so we can have all the members introduce themselves?
So Brad, do you think I should read through the attendees list, or, I mean, I can see who's here. I can read the signatories.
Yeah, do the attendees list with signatories with Derek taking over from Steve.
Okay, so I have Derek Cravat, representing Mass DOT Secretary and CEO Tessler.
Here.
Arthur Frost, representing Mass DOT Highway.
Here?
Tom Skorowski, City of Fitchburg.
Here.
Trevor Beauregard, City of Gardner.
Here.
Guy Corbacero, MRPC Chairman. I know Guy was on earlier. I don't know if we lost him. I don't see him anymore. Oh,
I see him. I see Guy. He's here, but
looks like your microphone's not working, Guy. I can see that it's on, but I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. We could hear you earlier, so we can circle back. I can see you there, so we'll make sure to include you in the role. And see George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Rosemary Meissner, Subregion 2.
Here.
And finally, Tim Kilhart from Subregion 3.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Brian. Looks like the screen is still showing our our videos here. The next item, oh, perfect. Yep, so the next item is public comments. Are there any members of the public at the meeting that wish to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we're on to agenda item 3, approval of the meeting minutes from January 19th, 2022. Could I have a motion and a second to approve these meeting minutes as presented?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it. Arthur Frost.
Okay, thanks, Arthur. And who made the initial motion? Kind of missed that.
Tom Fitchburg.
Tom, okay. Yep, thank you. All right, any comments or questions on the minutes? All right, seeing none. Brian, if you could read the roll again.
Derek Cravat, Mass DOT Secretary and CEO, representing Secretary and CEO Tessler.
Yes.
Arthur Frost, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Tom Skorowski, Fitchburg.
Yes.
Trevor Beauregard, Gardner,
Yes.
Guy Corbisiero, Winchinen, and I'm not sure if the guy is not there. That's okay. We still have a quorum. George Kahali, Mart,
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2,
Yes.
and Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yeah, I'll abstain. I was not present at that meeting.
Okay, so we have an abstention, I guess no vote, and 6 yeses. So 6 signatories. I believe that carries, right, Brad?
Yes, we need a quorum for 6 for a quorum.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So we're on to the next agenda item, federal fiscal year 2022 through 2026 Montachusett Transportation Improvement Program. Review of comments received on draft amendment number 2 on the transit element. Is this you, Brian, or will Mart be addressing this one?
I'm actually going to do it.
Oh, Brett. Perfect. Sounds good.
You may recall at the last MPO meeting, we had a tip amendment number 1. We received a comment on that from Mart during that amendments comment period. And the result of the comment basically generated what's shown here, tip amendment number 2. Since it was approved last month for tip amendment number 1, tip amendment number 2 plays off of that and makes changes to the cost of the projects. You see highlighted in yellow, and added an additional project in green. This went out for a 21-day public comment period that began on January 25th and closed at the end of business on Monday, February 14th. We did not receive any comments during that time frame. Also, last week at the Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee meeting, the committee reviewed the amendment and gave its recommendation that the MPO endorse the amendment as presented with no comments. That is basically it, unless Mart has something I'd like to add about the amendment.
No, I don't have any new information.
Okay. Sounds good. So I think with that, we can ask for a motion and second to endorse this second amendment to the 2022 through 2026 transit tip. Is there a motion?
So moved. Arthur Frost.
I second it.
Okay, thanks, George. So I think, are there any questions or comments before we read the roll? Seeing none, I think you can read the roll, Brian.
Eric Cravat, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Arthur Frost, Mass Dot Highway.
Yes.
Tom Skorowski, Fitchburg.
Yes.
Trevor Beauregard, Gardner.
Yes.
Guy Corbisiero, MRPC. I see a thumbs up. I think that's good. George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay, that carries.
Okay, sounds good. So it looks like that was it for agenda item 4. So we're on to agenda item 5, federal fiscal year 2023 Unified Planning Work Program, discussion on budget, federal state requirements and tasks. Is this Sherry?
Yep,
Yes.
that's me.
Sounds good.
In the handouts, we had a UPWP distribution of tasks, which we did the equity analysis for. But first, I wanted to briefly go over the project requests to date. So far, we've had 6 official project requests, and then 1 we're expecting from Sterling. To review those real briefly, we have Leominster, the intersection of Jungle Road and Route 117, Townsend, Route 119 and 13 intersection. Shirley is requesting a freight or a truck study. We're kind of partnering it with the Lunenburg request, which is the exact same, with a freight truck study, where they are requesting Fort Pond Road Leominster Shirley Road, Lancaster Road, and Shirley Road in both communities where the roads do overlap with the neighboring community. So Shirley and Leominster we counted as 2 requests because we did receive 2 separate requests, although it is kind of a joint project right there. Lunenburg is also requesting an intersection study for Chase Road and Northfield Road, as well as Route 13 and West Street. And Sterling recently requested, or is considering requesting, an intersection study for Route 140 and Muddy Pond Road, although we have yet to receive an official request letter for that one. So we will compile a project listing, and determination letters will be sent out prior to the March 16th MPO meeting. And we'll also have draft write-ups for each of those projects that were chosen at that time. So now moving back to the handout for the equity analysis. We had compiled an equity analysis, which includes a social component and a geographic component. So if you scroll through the handout, the first, it talks about the different types of equity. We have environmental justice, FTA's Title VI, and then HWA Title VI, which all have different categories that go associated with them. And then if you keep going, Brian, so here's the table that lists the last 5 projects that have been done for mostly individual communities, and then which component of the equity analysis, which component of the categories they have covered, whether it's a specific location, it'll be X. If it's a star or an asterisk, it means that it was the community is considered under that category, but not specifically the project location. Right, and then we also compiled another table. Keep going. Where it has yes, right there. So we had put each community into a category, and then we also mentioned if we had done projects in them, and you can see I think there's 10 communities that covered all 3 specific categories, and of those 10 communities, there were 2 communities that had 0 projects completed in them in the last 5 years. That was Clinton and Harvard. That's just something that we should be aware of, that we might want to consider focusing a little bit more heavily on those 2 communities in the future. And then the next component is an additional map that we had created. This is a new type of map that we are starting to see pop up here and there. It's multicolored, so the darker the color means that these communities are considered the special populations that we were mentioning in the equity analysis, as well as having a number of projects done. Whereas the lighter the color, there's less of the categories involved, which was basically a summarization of the table that was just shown previously. And then to move on to the geographic equity, we have a map that shows where the majority of the projects were based on just the communities alone. And you can see that there was less projects in the communities of Groton, Harvard, Clinton, Petersham, Phillipston, Templeton, and Royalston and Ashby. So more of the edges of the community, of the region. So it's just also something to consider when we're choosing the projects that were requested. I think that's all we have for the equity analysis. Moving on to the funding allocation, you can see that in FY23, the PL allocation has increased by 128,252 from FY22 to FY23, and that was after a decrease of 22,499 the previous year. FTA funding has remained the same, and this is due to the new Infrastructure Investment and Job Act, which is also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and that was recently signed by President Biden back on November 15th. There'll be more information coming out on that, I believe, and then we will update all of our UPWP and TIP write-ups based off of this particular law that was signed. think that was mostly what I had for the UPWP update. In the March meeting, we will review the chosen projects as well as the draft tasks for each of those, and then a little bit more detail for the budgets. And UPWP write-up overall will also be coming out in the next month or two.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry? Yes, I see a hand raised. Is that Tom?
Yes. I was just curious in March when we're talking about the next round of UPWP projects, if it might be possible to get a status update for how MRPC is doing on the ones existing in the queue for this year.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do that. It's tough right now because we're heavily working on the TIP UPWP projects, and I know a lot of the roadway type projects are mostly more in the spring because we can't get out there easily right now. But I'm sure we can definitely give you some kind of an update. Specifically, I'm sure you're looking at the Fitchburg projects.
Maybe, but also all of them, of course. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none. Thank you, Sherry. The next item is the federal fiscal year 2023 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program, update of project listings, costs, and status. Is this you, Brian?
Yep, I can take this. So I just have a short update on what's been happening in the last month or so with the TIP, and then we have a project presentation from the town of Clinton on their Route 62 Sterling Street project, which will be given by their consultant, Green International. So the first handout that I have here is just our transportation evaluation criteria, and it's just a blank sheet, just for everyone's reference. I just wanted to provide this for the group so you have some indication on what those TEC scores pertain to. And I won't go over this in detail, but just so you know, we look at various categories such as the effect on the project that condition will have. We look at mobility aspects of a potential project, and all target projects are scored, by the way. We look at safety, such as crash statistics that we monitor, and community effects and support, such as projects' effect on various populations and support from local governments. We look at land use and economic development. For example, if a project would have an effect on job creation or access, among other things. And finally, environmental effects. And obviously, this goes into greater detail, and we sort of examine each project and score it accordingly to get an aggregate TEC score. So that's just for your information, so you would have some reference when we mention our TEC scores. Here's a list of all the target projects that we have in the program this year. This is actually listed in order from highest TEC score to lowest. And you can see this particular graph shows each TEC score, and it pertains to the question in the survey form. We have 3 new projects this year, which are shaded in gray. Fitchburg reconstruction of John Fitch Highway, which you can see scored very high. We've managed to get some information on this project, and we've completed the scoring. Athol sidewalk installation on Templeton Road. We've also done the scoring on this project, another new project this year. And finally, in Fitchburg and Ashby, at the very bottom of this list, resurfacing and related work on Route 31. We have not gotten much information about this project as of now, so we haven't completed the scoring aspect. However, it's a brand new project, so we have a little bit of time, and once we get some additional information, we'll complete the scoring and add to the list. So the major development in the TIP in the last few weeks is we got our target allocations, which some really good news. We saw approximately a 20% increase across the board in each federal fiscal year due to the bipartisan infrastructure legislation passed a few months ago at the federal level. You can see our current federal fiscal year 2022 through 26 TIP target allocations on the left column, and compared to the 23 to 27 update, which we're working on the right column. And it's about a $2 million increase per year. So that should help out as we look to allocate projects each federal fiscal year. Here is finally the same target project listing, which we've looked at the last few meetings. This is list projects, how they currently exist on the 22 through 26 tip. However, you can see the highlighted target number below each federal fiscal year. This is the new target allocation we've been given. And it shows the remaining balance under each federal fiscal year in green. So in 2023, 24, 25, and 26, we have over $2 million where we're under programmed in each of those years. So we'll be looking to fill those gaps in as best we can. And in 2027, this is the new federal fiscal year added to this update. Typically, this would be a blank slate, but as I've mentioned in past meetings, we are carrying the second portion of the Harvard resurfacing box widening on Air Road project, which was scheduled for 2026 and 27 in the current tip. So we have about 4.5 million under target for 2027. Next month's meeting, major portion of the tip section of the meeting will be discussing various scenarios. In fact, last week we met with Mass DOT to discuss some of the project statuses on this list. We went over each project. We talked about possible projects in the appendix that would be candidates to move forward. Most notable in the appendix are Athol intersection improvements at Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Ave, which is at 75%. This is a candidate to move forward based on the design. And Clinton, which we'll hear a presentation on in a few. Reconstruction on Sterling Street, Route 62. This is another project that we've identified that we could possibly begin to examine placing in a federal fiscal year of the tip. And so we'll have much more robust discussion at next month's meeting. One thing, just sort of a heads up, as we discussed these projects last week with Mass DOT, we actually identified in federal fiscal year 2023 Westminster rehab and box widening on 140, which is project number 607432, at about $6.375 million. This actually may be a candidate to have to move back federal fiscal year in the tip due to issues with the design, more specifically environmental and right-of-way issues. So we'll keep monitoring that. But as we go over some possible scenarios with the group next month, I would expect that at least one of those scenarios would have the Westminster project moved back at least to 2024. Again, we'll keep on gathering additional information and monitor that status. Of course, that will have an effect on not just federal fiscal year 23, but a domino effect on the other years. Obviously, it's a fiscally constrained document, so we can't allocate funds over our target number. That type of scenario would also leave a big gap in 2023. So we'd be looking to fill that. However, we would want to make sure our project would be ready in time to go to bid in 2023 before we would schedule one. So those are just some issues that we'll deal with in the scenarios next month, and we'll have more in-depth conversation with the group. So at the March meeting, we hope to have a recommendation from the MPO on a particular target project listing scenario that we can then move forward and develop a draft tip to present in April. So that's where we stand right now, and we'll have additional information as we get it as well. So with that, I think, well, first of all, are there any questions on the tip? I'm sorry, is there a comment? Maybe not. Okay. Well, the second portion of this tip presentation is we have a presentation from the town of Clinton. on their Sterling Street Route 62 project. And I see Tom Bigelow and Chris McGowan here. Chris, would you like me to turn over the screen to you or to Tom?
I'll just start with a brief introduction of what's going on, and then we can turn it over to Tom.
Okay.
So Town of Clinton is pursuing funding for Sterling Street project, which a couple of years back we changed and designated Sterling Street as Route 62. Used to go over Brook Street, but now it goes over Sterling Street. The road's in pretty poor condition. The sidewalks are terrible, and we're looking to upgrade. Town of Clinton just in the past 4 or 5 years has been doing a lot and spending a lot of state funds as well as a substantial amount of our own money to try to improve especially our main roads and the main corridors in and out of town. We're also striving to make our town much more walkable and bikeable. We completed last year a very large downtown rehabilitation project with a little bit of state money and a substantial amount of our own town money. So we're trying to move forward with the Sterling Street project, which is probably our last main route into the town of Clinton. It comes from Sterling, Leominster, Fitchburg area would come in that way. And we're looking to get that road funded and under construction so we can continue with our improvements in town. Now with that, I'll turn it over to Tom.
Yes, thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. So we have a presentation here just to give an update on the project and just remind everyone what the project proposes. So here is a locus map which shows the project limits. It extends about 2,500 feet along Sterling Street, which is Route 62. It starts at the intersection of Willow Street and Lawrence Street and ends at the intersection of Main Street, and also includes the intersections of Brook Street and Greeley Street. The existing roadway is a town-owned and maintained roadway. It's a principal arterial that's on the National Highway System. And Greeley Street, which was one of the major intersections, is on the HSIP cluster list. So an RSA has been conducted for that intersection. The roadway, because it does get a lot of truck traffic, the pavement is deteriorating. Part of the reason for that heavy truck traffic that it sees is it is part of Route 62. Previously, the Brook Street had been signed 62, but Sterling Street really does create that more direct route for users on Route 62 traveling towards Lancaster in the west and Berlin to the east on Route 62. So that's the reason why the town worked with Mass DOT on that updated designation. And improvements really are needed to be commensurate with that Route 62 designation and the use of the roadway as a whole as a local route and also a regional route for both pedestrians and vehicles. So we have some existing conditions photos. There you can see here on the left, there's poor sight distance and also pedestrian accommodations, vegetation overgrowing the sidewalk, and also bicycle accommodations do not meet. Also on the right photo, the photo here is showing more substandard pedestrian accommodations, poor bicycle accommodations, and also you can see signs of some of the deteriorated pavement that's out there. On this photo on the left, you can see Greeley Street in the background, and also you can start to see more evidence of the deteriorated pavement and also the poor sidewalk conditions and substandard bicycle accommodations. And this photo on the right, which shows another close-up photo of the Greeley Street intersection, you can really start to see a lot of the pavement rutting that's occurring close to the intersection due to the heavy truck traffic. So the objectives of the projects is to address the existing safety issues along the corridor while upgrading Sterling Street to meet its current designation of Route 62 and bring it up to current design standards. Also with the goal of providing a complete street, so not just for motors, but also accommodating bicyclists and pedestrians. also with the goal of improving pavement conditions, improving and upgrading the existing drainage infrastructure along the roadway within the project limits. And also, which tying back to the complete streets, is help improve some of the access management and driveways that are along the project. The project limits historically have a lot of industrial uses on either side of the roadway. So a lot of those driveway accesses don't really lend themselves to today's standards of providing safe pedestrian access, and also some of the today's standards of providing smaller driveway widths for access management. So I have here some typical sections of the proposed improvements. We're proposing 11-foot travel lanes on either side of the roadway with a 2-foot bicycle buffer and 5-foot bicycle lanes on both sides of the roadway. And we're able to maintain a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the roadway. This is the typical section on top for most of the project limits. And as you get towards the east end of the project, towards Main Street, where if you're familiar with the project area, there are old mill buildings located either side of the roadway. We are able to provide some slightly wider sidewalks on both sides of the roadway that abut up against the mill and extend to the limits of the right-of-way. As far as the bicycle and roadway cross-section, those elements remain the same, except in the area of Greeley Street, about 300 feet either side, where we're not able to maintain the bicycle buffer, but we are able to obtain the 5-foot bicycle lane throughout the project. So we have another image here of our 25% design plans, just showing the bicycle buffer lane and what that looks like towards the beginning of the project. Another goal of the project is to improve sight distance and sight lines at the existing intersections. So looking to trim back some of the existing vegetation. Utility poles will be relocated as part of the project, so where we can relocate those to help improve sight distances, and also updating and keeping an eye on where some of the existing signage is, so that way those sight lines are improved as a part of the project. As I mentioned previously, an RSA has been conducted. It was performed in April of last year. And just one of the improvements that we're able to incorporate from that RSA is LED stop signs at the intersection of Greeley Street. They are currently, under existing conditions, installed on the Sterling Street approaches. And as a part of the recommendation RSA, will be incorporating them on the Greeley Street approaches as well. Another enhancement is high visibility pavement markings. We have the bicycle lane crossings at each side street denoted with high visibility pavement markings, and also the crosswalks. We have the ladder style crosswalk at each of the side streets along the project limits, and also at any mid-block crossings such as this one at the just east of the Parker Street intersection across Sterling Street. So as Chris had mentioned, we're hoping to get this project assigned a tip year, and we feel it's worthy of that, given the fact that it does have the high hazard HSIP intersection crash cluster intersection along it, and safety improvements are really needed for this roadway to be commensurate with its current designation of Route 62. The project proposes ADA compliant sidewalks and wheelchair ramps throughout, as well as improvements for bicyclists. So it's really providing that multimodal access while also improving regional connectivity for not just the immediate area in Clinton, but also improving that connectivity for motorists coming from outside communities. And also we want to note that it is the 4th highest scored project on the tip, including all of the current projects that are currently assigned a tip here, but also within the appendix. It's actually the highest scored project that is not currently assigned a tip here. And as far as just a status update on the project, as I said before, we conducted the road safety audit. It was conducted in April of 2021 and finalized in June of last year. We then submitted the 25% design to Mass DOT, including preliminary right-of-way plans in October. We've since received comments just a couple weeks ago from Mass DOT on that, and we're looking through those and hoping to schedule a comment resolution meeting with them this winter, possibly as soon as next month. And with the overall goal of having the design public hearing in June, or at least this summer of this year. And we believe the project can be ready to advertise as soon as 2024 as we move forward. And as far as the cost estimate, based on the last 25% design estimate, we're estimating the cost at about $4.7 million. And that includes construction and utility locations as well. So with that, Chris and I are here to answer any questions that you all may have.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Are there any questions? So I had one question for the proposed bicycle lanes. Are those, is the proposed buffer, is that going to be proposed to be paint, or is there more separation that's proposed?
That is proposed to be 2 feet wide and painted. Yes.
Painted, okay. Sounds good. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Well, thank you again. I think our next item on the agenda is updates. So I think first on our update list is the Highway Division. Arthur, do you want to go first, or District 3?
Let me find my mute button. So we have Lancaster Route 70. That's 608779. We're at the PS&E stage, final stage, so we expect to advertise that in March, on March 12th. In Hubbardston, Route 68, it is 608793, and that's also on FY22, and we expect to advertise that June 4th. So that's our updates for FY22 TIP projects.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. I see Daryl is on from District 2. Are you giving the update, Daryl?
Sure, I'll give you some updates. Daryl from District 2 here. For fiscal year 22, we have project 608850. That's Petersham Bridge replacement, Glen Valley Road over East Branch of the Swift River. Design is at PS&E. PS&E review was completed February 4th. We're waiting responses to comments. Current ad date is June 11th, 22. TFPC on this project is $2,467,088. The current tip amount is $2,050,591. For FY23, we have a project 608784. That's Templeton Roundabout construction at the intersection of Patriots Road, South Main Street, North Main Street, and Gardner Road. Roadway design is at 75%. 100% is due February 25th this year. 100% right-of-way plans were received on January 11th and are under review. Current ad date is January 14th, 2023. TFPC per project info is $2,037,795. Current tip amount is $1,719,449. For fiscal FY24 project, we have 609107. That's Phillipston, Templeton, pavement preservation related work on Route 2. Designs at PS&E. PS&E was submitted January 24th. Is currently under review and comments are due February 25th. Current ad date on this is November 11th, 23. Total federal participating costs on this project is $10,300,466. Current tip amount is $10,477,545. There are no projects in FY25, and there's one project in FY26. That's 608424 Templeton reconstruction of Route 68 from King Philip Brook Trail, Route 202 north to the Phillipston town line. Designs at 75%. 100% design submissions due June 23rd this year. Current ad date is January 10th, 2026. TFPC is $6,063,291. Current tip amount is $7,017,608. And that's what I have right now.
All right, thank you, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl or for Arthur? seeing none. Next is transit. Is this George?
Yes, thank you. Well, I don't have too much, just let you know. We are reviewing all our bus routes and schedule to make the changes and update to our service to go where the people need to be. And just this month, we extended our bus route of Winchendon to go directly to the Haywood Hospital and to Montachusett Community College. This is what I have. If you have any question, please.
Any questions for George? All right, seeing none. Thank you, George.
Welcome.
Next is an update from the Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that.
Or Brad. Yep, okay.
The MJTC met last week on February 9th. As mentioned in the previous meeting, there is a vacant chair position at the JTC. It was the consensus of the members to leave the position open until the next election cycle that will begin in May with the selection of a nominating committee leading to a July election. So in the interim, the vice chair, Dick Kilhart of Ethel, will act as the chair in the interim. There is a handout available announcing a MassDOT website that provides a strategy for reducing speeds on roadways for the purpose of creating safer roads. The Safe Speeds homepage states that MassDOT is committed to helping realize safer speeds across the Commonwealth to prevent serious crashes. Our goal is 0 fatalities and serious injuries. Part of this strategy addresses the role of setting speed limits, which can be found through a link on this website. The MRPC encourages member communities to examine the Safe Speeds website to learn more about implementing the safe speed measures and the opportunities to seek additional grant funding. We also have a reminder for the MassDOT Shared Streets and Spaces program. This is the 4th round of the program. Applications are due by March 1st and are to be submitted via an online form. This flyer and information is also available on the MRPC website under announcements. Also, there is a press release available today from the Baker-Polito administration. It came out on February 3rd. It's on the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, or the BIL, that outlines expected funds for Massachusetts and the various programs that are to be impacted. The release outlines initial plans to make significant and additional investments into roads, bridges, public transportation, and environmental infrastructure projects across the Commonwealth. Massachusetts is anticipated to receive over $9.5 billion over the next 5 years. And this press release outlines some of the different programs that the money will be allocated to. And then finally, the last thing I have is the next MJTC meeting is Wednesday, March 9th at 2:30 p.m. And that is all I have on MJTC, if there are any questions.
Thanks, Brad. Any questions? Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Got it.
Oh, I'm back. Okay. That's all.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. I think the next item is an update from the Montachusett Regional Planning Commission.
I don't have, this is Guy Corbacero. I don't have a lot this month. The MRPC has, at their last meeting, started the budget process. We've had a preliminary budget, and that will go through the month of June, working on that, but nothing else. I don't know if anybody from our staff has anything to add to that.
Not at this time.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
all.
good. I think the only thing I was going to mention was that the MassDOT Innovation Conference was, the save the date was just announced. It'll be taking place May 24th through May 25th. It's going to be a hybrid conference this year, so there will be online participation available, but also some in-person participation. It'll be at the DCU Center in Worcester, but again, online participation is available. So the link I posted in the chat will have future updates for folks, but just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And the next item is administrative matters, next MPO meeting. should be in March. Is there a
We have that
specific
set for
date?
March
Looks like March
16th.
16th. Okay. And at that one, we'll go through the tip scenarios and discuss any updates. So I think with that, we're on to our final item, adjournment. I don't think we have to do a formal roll call, but I'll take a motion and a second to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Guy Corbisiero.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Arthur Frost.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. I think without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here in March. Have a great
Yeah.
rest of the
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Derek.